Good afternoon, good evening, and I think even good morning to all our friends, wherever you are. I wish to thank you all for being with us today for the second interview in our series, Women Talk About the Middle East, which is a part of our Living in Harmony project at Wolf Institute, generously supported by the Shasha Foundation. For those of you who didn't have the time to be with us last time, in the previous interview with Mrs. Linda Menuchin Abdelaziz, not to worry, because we uploaded the interview and you can now have it in the YouTube, and we will put the link beside it so you can have the link if you wish to, and I'm sure you're going to enjoy us. So to enjoy this interview. We will have 25 minutes for the interview itself and then another 15 minutes of questions. So if you have any questions, please send them over during the interview, and I hope we can answer all the questions. So I am delighted to present today our second guest in the series, Women Talk About the Middle East. And our guest is Mrs. Lily Shor, who was also born in Baghdad and moved to Israel in the mid-1970s. Lily is the active, innovative, and multitasking Director of External Relations and Events at the Babylonian Jewry Heritage Center in Israel. In our talk today, we will focus on Lily's happy childhood in difficult times, that is, in Baghdad between 1951 and 1971. So first, Lily, thank you so much for being with us today and giving us the wonderful opportunity to learn from your own personal experience about Jewish life in Baghdad after the massive departure of most of them in 1951. So we will now start the questions. If you can please tell us a little bit about your family, about your father, about your mother, and the kind of dynamic you were born into.
So good evening, everyone. Good afternoon and good morning. Thank you, Merav, for this opportunity to bring forward the story of this community. The Jewish community was who remained in Iraq after the massive departure and had a different, totally or a different life from many aspects. So let's start with the beginning in 1951, the beginning of the end. In 1950, 1951, most of the community, most of the Jews, 90% of the Jews left, even more, and a small community, about 10,000 Jews remained in Iraq. Among them, my father and my grandfather and his family. So my father, he sent all his family, his mother, his brothers. He had two sisters, married sisters, and they left to Israel. They made Aliyah in the Tasqit, which is the law that the government issued to for the Jews to give up their nationality, the Iraqi citizenship, and go without the possibility to return. So he was left, he remained alone, and he waited for an opportunity or for the times, better times in Iraq to maybe save some of the properties and sell some of them. And in the meanwhile, he sent assistance to his family in Israel. Now, my grandfather, he has 6 daughters and 2 boys. 3 of the daughters came to Israel and one of the boys, one of the sons, came to Israel.
So we see
here
the
is
three
the family of
daughters
my
and the
mother.
two sons.
Exactly, these are the ones, the son and daughters who remained with the parents because they were minor, they were under 18, and they could not go by themselves. But not only that, he decided that he is not abandoning his family, his daughter and son. Two of the daughters were married with children, and one daughter and one son, and the son were single. But they came here, they were in the tents, they were in the Ma'abara, in the transition camps. So he decided that he's not abandoning his
So he was
children.
the only one. So he was the only one in his family that stayed in Baghdad. And from your mom part of the family?
Yes, this is from my mother part of the family. He's the father of my mother, and he also he has sisters, and his sisters made Aliyah as well. So he was the only one left in Iraq.
You were born into a family that most of the members of this family were already in Israel.
Yes.
Now, what kind of life did you have in Baghdad, within your family, within your neighborhood? Did you talk about the people who are in Israel, or you focused on the life and the people who are in Baghdad and you are surrounded by
yeah, them? We did not know exactly, you know, the details. But before that, I would like just to mention the life of the Jews after the Tasqit, after the
you told me that,
Aliyah.
Yeah, you told me that the only one who actually told you about that was your mother. Yeah.
Right. She told me about that, and in the family gatherings with the aunts, they kept talking about that. And you know, remembering all kinds of things and experiences and people as well. But when the Jews left, most of the community left in the 50s. Imagine the small community who stayed, that they were separated from their cousins, from their brothers and sisters, from their friends. So the shops were abandoned, the houses were abandoned, the schools were, you know, I mean, it was only 10% of the students. So yes, they had to gather everybody. Yes, everybody from all schools into 2 or 3 schools in the meanwhile. So it was a crisis for the people who remained there. And it was not easy. The reasons that they remained, it was not to sit on the money, but everybody has reasons. Some of the families has sons and husbands and brothers in jail, in prison, still in prison. And they waited for them to be released. Some, they were not brave enough to leave everything behind and, you know, to start a new life.
So what kind of life this community created, knowing that most of them are not there any longer, a part of them are in jail, and
yes, so I was born a few years later, 1957, and I first of all, I was when I was 1 year old or one and a half year old, there was the coup d'etat, and when Abdel Karim Qasim killed the king,
Can you just explain who is Abdul Karim Qasim for those who are not fluent in Iraqi history?
Yeah, Abdul Karim Qasim was an officer, an high officer in the army, the Iraqi army, who killed the king. He was the leader, King Faisal II, and he was the leader of this coup d'etat, and later became the prime minister of, and he became the prime minister of Iraq. Here we can see it, the stamp of Abdul Karim Qasim and me as a baby. And actually, at that time, when Nouri Said was running away first. Nouri Said was the prime minister of the kingdom, and he ran away and wanted to hide in some of his friends in his friend's house. So this was our neighbor, Sheikh Al-Amara, the Sheikh of the city of Amara. I don't know what happened to the. Okay, is this okay, right?
No. It looks like.
Okay, so he was the Sheikh of Amara, and Nouri Said wanted to come there, but obviously saw the soldiers and he went away. But the soldiers to see what's in the house, so they came and they came to our house and they rushed into our house. They climbed the wall and to look for Nouri Said, who was not there, in Batawin. And he was killed in the corner where my grandmother lived. Because my grandfather to Istanbul, 1958, he wanted to, it was a trip that he received that the date on this letter is from 1958.
Yes.
So he came to Istanbul after going to Switzerland and after going to Italy, and they prepared their living because he opened bank accounts in Switzerland, etc. And in Istanbul, it was the meeting with the family who immigrated to Israel.
So they had all this idea that they are about to leave whenever it would be possible. It was always on their mind. But meanwhile, what kind of life as a child you had in a family and in such a very intense environment? I mean, I'm sure that all the Jews who stayed in Baghdad at that time were very worried from all sorts of reasons, for their livelihood, for their safety, the fact that a large part of their family is no longer with them, the fact that they are no longer a large and prominent community in Baghdad. But still, as a child, what kind of life did you have? How many friends did you have? Did you have only Jewish friends? Did you have also Muslims and Christian friends?
Different from the lives of the people who immigrated in the 50s. It was no more, religious schools, only 2 synagogues or 3 synagogues. It was a small, in the Jewish school, we didn't have religious lessons. We have religion lessons. We had only maybe 1 year of lessons of Hebrew lessons. And that's all. We didn't know, we just knew the alphabet. That's what I remember. And yes, we were in the Jewish schools among our friends, but there were also Christians, Armenians, many Armenians, and also Muslims. Some of them were Muslims, some of the students, and our French teacher, Madame Nouvel, in Menachem Daniel School, and other teachers in Frank Ini School. So we were among our friends, and we can see the Gal, if you can move forward these slides, you can see, yes, this is from Abdel Karim Qasim. This is our life in, we had
trips, I see.
Trips.
Yeah,
and
but
schools.
before we go
there
to
is
this,
also photos of the school.
yeah, before
Yes,
we
we have
go
trips.
forward, it's very interesting to know, because before.
So yes, in the school, at school, we were among our friends, mainly the Jews. Yes, we went to visit each other, but at home we didn't go out alone, especially not the girls. I was able to go alone with my friend to buy shoes only at the age of 13. And we were very protected, but we had our friends, the Armenian friends, the Christian friends, the Muslim friends, and also the neighbors. We rented our house from we used to live, our house was in the street from Tweg synagogue, but it was rented. They all the time prepared the departure, so they didn't want to be to have something commitment
property,
or
yes,
yes, a property. And the neighbors, the landlord, the sheikh, he was Shiite, and he was very and
very what?
really wife and his mother loved him. Sorry?
We didn't hear you. He was very, the sheikh was
he was very caring, and he loved my father very much, and his wife and his mother were very kind to my mother, and they loved my mother. And he has two daughters. One was a dentist and the other was a teacher, and they were also friends with my mother. And actually, one after Abdel Karim Qasim took over, and they came to my mother and asked her to come with them to a demonstration. So she said, well, I have a little baby. I was maybe 1 year, then 1 year and a half, 18 months. I have a baby. I cannot go with you, asking, and she couldn't refuse. This was a delicate situation that the Jews could not. They wanted to avoid, provocative acts or behavior. So she went with me on her, carrying me all the way to the demonstration with Abdel Karim Qasim. So I had the privilege to go
fantastic.
on demonstration in Iraq.
Lily, what do we see now on the on the screen? Who are these very elegant ladies?
So we see now, the 60s, Abdel Karim's time, about 4 or 5 years.
Yes.
It was very good time for the Jews. So we went to trips. We were, lived a normal life. We were happy. I say that the people the people are those who create the environment that you live in. So the adults, our parents, our grandparents, our friends, they create for us this environment that gave us the sense of happiness and joy. As children, we were, let's say, we were happy, but all the same, we were very, very aware of the need to be cautious, not to mention the name of Israel, not to be provocative. And when we used to go to places like the theme park and the Baghdad Expo, the exhibition grounds, and the circus, this Chinese circus, or other elsewhere, we children had to choose a name that sounds not Jewish. So I sometimes became Fatma and Khadija, and my cousin was sometimes Muhammad or Mustafa, and this was
I imagine also that the language. I imagine that you also had to change a bit the dialect, because the Jewish dialect.
Of course. We were aware of the need to speak in the Muslim language or the Iraqi language, the Iraqi dialect, and not in the Judeo-Arabic that we speak at home. And this is how we, managed our lives, even though we were children. But we were raised with, the values, the Jewish values, the values of chosen people, and we believed in them, and we lived our lives, or the adults, and they passed it over to us, children. The children, we lived accordingly to the values.
Which brings me to another question, which is, we know that before 51, Jewish life flourished in Iraq. At least in the last 100 years, we know of endless synagogues. There is an estimation of between 30 to 50 only in Baghdad. We're talking about rabbinic academies, yeshivot in Hebrew, that were also, many of them, schools for each and every need. There was even a school for blind children of deprived background. Many of them became very famous musicians. Now, to learn of the synagogue culture at that time. So you are no longer this large community, and you have only one or two synagogues. How many synagogues did you have?
I think there was about 3 synagogues, but the main one, I think it was Meir Tweg.
Meir Tweg. And how many people used to go?
The synagogue was full in high holidays, in Yom Kippur, and I even was sent, it was across my house, as I said, and my parents used to send me, or my mother send me with a chicken in Yom Kippur to be slaughtered. We can see, Gal, if you can move on with the slides, we can see the synagogue, and Abu Liyahu, who was the shochet. Okay, these are the good times and the childhood times, until the big this.
That's a picnic, isn't it? Looks like a picnic.
So this is a picnic, and if you ask about our religious life, yes. So this is a picnic, but it was a picnic on our way to the tomb of Ezekiel the Prophet, Yechezkel Hanavi. He is buried in his tomb. Is here. We can see my grandfather wearing the sidara in the inside, in the tomb of outside the tomb of Yechezkel Hanavi. It was discovered only lately from Orna and Hilda Daniel and Lydia Sasson, who gave me this film. And I was surprised to see my grandfather. So the religious life was included as well, visiting or pilgrimage, if you want, to the tomb of Ezekiel the Prophet, of Ezra HaSofer, Le'ezer. Yes, this is the tomb, and this is the photo from the film that I mentioned. And after going to the tomb of Yechezkel Hanavi, we used to go to ancient Babylon to have sightseeing or to see the all the remains of the ancient. You can move on, Gal. The ancient. Yes, this is on our way to Babylon and to Yechezkel Hanavi. Yes, this is Babylon.
Is the famous lion, yes.
Yeah, here you can see my grandfather always with the sidara, and my my aunt here and others, my other aunt, and this is me on near the donkey, having fun in the picnic. So yes, it was a beautiful life, and but it included our tradition, our customs, our heritage, our religious customs, and we didn't, you know, we.
So your Jewish identity was clear. You kept keeping all the holidays. You
all the time, yes.
Yeah. That I'm afraid, Lily, we don't have much time, but there is something which I'm very curious about, and this is about the music. Did you, the community by large, I mean, the young generation, did you know about the heydays of the giant Jewish musicians that Iraq had, and did you hear their music in Baghdad of that time? The Kuwaitis, the Zaharouk?
We did hear it on the radio. We heard Yana we heard Khadri Chai, we heard other songs. There was that you know, Jewish musicians were the composers. But anyway, we didn't know almost anything about the Jewish community who lived before that. Even I didn't know that my father has a family. I didn't know. I thought that he was, until the age of 14, I thought he was alone in the world, and they kept the secrets. They didn't want us to be exposed to you know, to something that to details that we can maybe we can say in unsuitable places. So and to the incorrect ears.
Yeah, they didn't want you to know too much, just to feel safe for your own good. That's very,
right.
So when was the time when the family decided that they need to leave Iraq? Was it a critical event, or it was a process that came to fruition at that time?
So in 1967, the 6 Days War, the 6-day war, and the aggressive attacks on Israel, of the Arab countries, and it was followed by the revenge that the government wanted to take from the Jews. So immediately they took, you know, steps against the Jews. They threw them to the prison, arrested many Jews. They didn't allow students to go to universities, and they cut off the telephone lines. People were, or Jews, they were fired from their jobs if they were in a non-Jewish company. You know, it was very hard time because many people were in prison. Many of them were tortured and murdered in prison, and 9 Jews were hanged in 27th of January 1969, which was a big tragedy, a big crisis for the Jews. They didn't believe that it will reach such a point. This was the point that the Jews understood, realized that that's it. Even though they gave the opportunity, or they thought that it will be maybe the situation will be calmer, there will be better. They were loyal citizens. They were they did everything to serve their countries, their country, to serve Iraq. They consider themselves Iraqis, and they contributed to the economics, to everything. They were in the education, and in the education system, in everything.
So at this point, they realized that they no longer belong to Iraq. At this point,
that there is now an urgency to go out and leave Iraq.
And how many years it took your family to leave after that?
In 1970, the first Jew succeeded to go outside Iraq through Kurdistan. It was Max Saudai.
Yeah.
And he was followed by the other Jews. When we left in 1971, July 1971, or August 1971, it was already organized, and because once Max Saudai came to Tehran, and
so we see here the photos of the Kurds. So you left from the north, yeah. Yeah, here are the photos.
So it was also organized by or assisted by the Mossad and the Sukhnut and the Jewish Agency, and it was more organized when we left in 1971. We didn't go on mules because some of us, or some of our friends, crossed the borders on mules in December in the snow, and there were very hard times, but we were almost caught on our way. We locked our house, we took the train we packed our suitcase, not in the house. We left from another house and went to the train station.
How long did it take you from Baghdad to Israel? How many weeks?
Oh, to Israel.
Yeah.
Well, it took about 2 days from Baghdad to reach Tehran, or maybe 3 days, because it was a long trip to the north of
Tehran, airplane?
And then from Tehran, yes, we had a flight to Israel.
Now, 2 seconds, we don't have a lot of time. Tell me, what was your first impression from Israel?
So for the first time at the age of 14, I got the opportunity to meet my grandmother that I didn't know that she exists, and to know to meet my cousins, to meet my uncles, my aunts from both sides, from my mother's side, my father's side. Here we can see the gathering in Israel with the two grandmothers here that we see. It was my baby brother who was born here.
It looks like you feel that you are coming home, actually, Lily.
Yes, it was a very big simcha. Yes, actually, we returned 2,600 years later, on the same day of Tisha B'Av, because my father, you asked about the religious aspect. So my father waited until Motzei Tisha B'Av, until Tisha B'Av ends, which is the day of the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem and the destruction of Jerusalem, of course. And only when Tisha B'Av was ended, we took the train, etc., and we left. So it was exactly the same date. Let's say
with a fantastic historical symbolic.
So in Israel here, I am with my classmates in 1973. You asked about Israel. So in Israel, first of all, I met my family. Then I had, then we experienced the Yom Kippur War from the other side of the border, from the right side. From the right side of the border.
We don't have any more time, but
no, just one sentence. One sentence. And I learned a very important lesson when the elections took place in 1973. After the war, two or 3 months after the war, in December 1973, I learned about my rights and my duties. And my duty in the war was to fill the places. Me and my classmates that you see here, we went to fields to pick peppers and cucumbers and oranges, instead to fill the place of those who were recruited to the army to fight in the front lines. And the other right, that the right to vote and the elections. So I was a member when I was in Yud Aleph, in the 7th grade of high school. I was a member of a polling station, Kalfi, in the elections of 1973. And this was really a lesson for me to experience what is to be a free person in my own homeland, proud, and my head is high and not oppressed and a minority, inferior minority.
And, thank you so much for this, Lily. I think we have only 1 minute for one question by Sarah Kemp, our friend Sarah Kemp. We're very happy that you are with us today. And Sarah is asking, did your parents have Iraqi passports? Were many Jews Iraqi citizens?
No passports. No, of course not, because we applied for passports. Every now and then they said, well, the Jews are equal citizens, and the Jews are this and that, and you can go to the home office and apply for a passport, but we never got the passports, and that's why we had to leave to escape.
All right, my last question, 1 minute. How do you see the Middle East in 10 years' time? Something optimistic. Let's dream. Let's hope.
Well, first of all, I'm very glad to see the Abraham agreements now, and the peace agreements with Bahrain, with the Emirates, with the and we are I am very happy, I personally, and my friends as well, that we reconnect, or we have we have contacts through the social media with Iraqi friends, with Iraqis, with the young generation, or the generations our age, people, Iraqis who did not meet any Jew in their lives. And we are very happy to see now, or in the last few years, that people or Iraqis who live abroad, outside Iraq, in Europe and United States and Australia, even New Zealand, come to the museum and want to hear. They are willing. They are thirsty to hear the true story of the Jews, because all this time, all this 100 years, all the century, they were poisoned. They were misled by their leaders. We are victims. We are victims of this tragedy, but they are victims as well, because they didn't know the truth, and they just their minds were poisoned.
Yeah.
So when the Jews left Iraq, it's not because the Jews left Iraq, but because the balance was, there was no balance anymore. There was no tolerance. The cruelty, the inhumanity, and took over. So I hope now that people concentrate in the main issues of life, not to follow ideas, or rather to check what is a Jew, what happened to the Jews, what happened to them, what is their contribution. Everywhere the Jews went, every country they immigrated to, they contributed a lot. They left their fingerprints on, even though it was a very short time. See how in Iraq, it was only from the establishment of the kingdom in 1920 or something like that, in the 20s, until the rise of Hitler and the anti-Semitism. Yeah. It was a very short time of period of time.
So we can now look at the future with optimistic eyes and think that things will get better. What do you think?
I hope that with the social media, the borders were, how do you say, the borders can be crossed, and the people are their eyes open and looking for the truth.
I think we have another question which will bring us to a
I hope that we can.
Lily, we have a question from Yael Ben Yaakov, who asks you if you can please tell us one event that was the most happy event that you actually experienced in Iraq, in Baghdad.
Well, we didn't speak about, we didn't have time to speak about going out with friends. When we were in high school, when going to dance parties, listening to the music. You asked about the music,
Yeah.
so we listened to music to the Beatles, Cliff Richard,
Not
Demis Roussos,
Abdul Wahab.
Charles Nabul. Yes, we heard Kulthum on the TV. We heard Kulthum in the cafes by the riverside, and we heard Abdul Wahab, and we went to cinemas and saw all the films and also on TV. And so this was happy times with our friends, mainly, Jewish friends, classmates. And when we went to the cinema, and when our hearts were, beat hard, very fast, when we heard all these romantic songs of Cliff Richard, and Demis Roussos and Charles Nabul, and so these are happy times.
Thank you so much, Lily, for your time, and thank you all for being with us today. And let's hope for a better future for the Middle East, and very soon. Good evening to all of you.